Hi everyone, I know it's been a while, but I'm back with a new video. In this one, I'm going to show you how to combine your cards and visuals into a neat native visual KPI packed full of details and insights. In the Maven Analytics North Wind Traders Challenge, I created this KPI dashboard combining some KPIs built using native visuals alongside some custom built Deneb visuals. It was pointed out during the judging video that this was maybe the judge's favorite aspect of this report. So I thought I would give a brief walkthrough of the main steps. I'm going to create the line chart with color custom formatting. Then I'm going to add a dynamic revenue title and then also include the metrics in the subtitle. If you have the Northwind Trader dataset, you can follow along, but in reality, this can be applied in almost any situation where you're creating KPIs. Here I have a combination of the new card visual and also a native line chart showing the revenue for the first few months of 2015. Now looking at these, I guess they're okay to give you the key information of the net revenue and month over month and your against your target and your yearly revenue. But that key information is located across like 4 different cards, so multiple visuals plus a line chart. So it's taking up quite a lot of real estate on your report and you're having to look at a few different visuals just to get the information. Now we can transfer all of this information into this more compact KPI visual that packs all of that information plus some additional context, and it takes up only a fraction of the real estate. The reason we can do that is that as of March 23rd, 2023, the native visuals now have both a title and a subtitle. And better still, we can add a measure through this conditional formatting, giving us the option of making them dynamic, both in terms of their values and their colors as well. Okay, so I'm going to recreate this KPI from scratch using the standard Northwind's dataset if you're interested. Here's my model. It's probably a little bit overcomplicated for what we're doing. We're basically going to be using the order details, the date, and also a disconnected date table. Everything else is kind of not really needed for this particular exercise, but that's the model I'm using. The disconnected table, I'll maybe talk about that a little bit later. On how we're using that to adjust our reporting month. Okay, so I'll go back to our main report and our line chart visual. So let's just get started. Okay, so first I'm going to create a few measures. One will be our net revenue, one will be our target, and the other will be some color formatting. Okay, so our first will be the total order net revenue, which will be a SumX function. My IntelliSense isn't working. Order details unit price times quantity times 1 minus our discount. So that is everything. So basically we want the unit price multiplied by the quantity for each order, and then we're applying whatever the discount. So if we have a 5% discount, then it's 1 minus 5%, so it's 95%. So we're just calculating the cost of each order. So that's what we're doing there. And then we want in the challenge, what I did was I set a target monthly revenue. So I set it at $100,000 per month. That gives you kind of like the so what. So if you're earning a certain amount, it might have increased from the previous month, but we want to know, like, are we meeting our targets for the business? So it's always good to set targets and then you can measure yourself against them. Okay, so we've got our revenue, we've got our target. So now we want to have a color formatting measure. Okay, so color format for the revenue equals, we have to introduce a couple of variables here. So var var1 equals, and that's just going to be our total order, var2 equals our target, and then var result equals, and then we're going to introduce a switch function here, switch true. Okay, so we're going to say if var1, so if our net revenue income is greater than or equal to our target, which is var2, then we want a, well, I want a sort of a greenish color. What have I got here? 145 A5A. If var2 is less than if var1 is less than var2, so if our revenue is less than our target, then we want, or I want a reddish color. So what have I got? I've got C73D40, boom, and then close parentheses, and then I want to return the result. Okay, so all right, so we can now build this chart. So what I want to do is drop in, what do I do? My date. So what I want to have is on the x-axis, I want the end of month. On the y-axis, I want my total net revenue. Got a line chart there that's covering everything, but I only want to show for my reporting month, which is January, February, March, and April 2015. One of my columns is my reporting year. So what I want to do is just apply a filter for my reporting year. So I'm only including the months that I'm reporting on. So I've set this just using a conditional formula. So now we have our line chart showing this. Now what we want to do is change this from a continuous to a categorical. So if we have continuous, it just says continuous line. If we change categorical, then we get each individual month, January, February, March, April. And then what else do we want to do? We want to have our markers in place there. I don't want the grid lines, so turn the grid lines off. But if I go to the markers, I want to change the colors. There's no conditional formatting for a line chart for the markers. There's a weird workaround for that, in that if we change this to a column chart and we go to the columns, you can change the color of the columns, even though you can't change the markers. So if we do that and we go to field value and we apply our color format, we get that color format here. For some reason, when you switch back to a line chart, the markers get that conditional color, but if you go to the colors, it's still shown this way. So don't press this or else it'll be overwritten, but that's kind of what we want. And what I want to do is maybe a little bit more formatting. I don't want the title, or in the x-axis, I don't want the title in there either. So that's kind of the first part of our KPI done. But what I might want to do is change the size. So I think for my report I used 200 and 265 maybe. I'm not sure if that's right or not. We can zoom in and use it anyway. But yeah, that's the first part. So what are we going to move on to next? So part 2. Yeah, so this title. So at the minute we have a title which is just generic text that's taken off it. Delete that for the time being, but I almost forgot. I want to add in a reference line. So I want to add in a line and what we want to use is field value and our target monthly revenue. And what do we want? We want like a sort of a grayish line. Doesn't need to be too, maybe a little bit darker. And what do we want to call this? We don't want to call it y-axis, do we? You just want to call this target rev. Let's see. So that should be good enough for us at the minute. So we've got our line, our target line, and what it's telling us. So we'll move on to the next step now. But before we do that, I think I mentioned earlier, there's a few ways of doing this. So if you're creating a KPI that is just reporting on the latest month, so you don't have a slicer that's going between different months and having this sort of dynamic KPI, it's quite straightforward because you can just go for the latest month, and you can customize your calendar just to show the latest month, and that's quite straightforward to apply to your calculations. However, if you want to include a monthly slicer and you want to be able to look at how your KPI performed last month and the month before that, etc., and you have all your month-over-month metrics changing, etc., it becomes a little bit more tricky. It is more difficult to retain the line chart. So if you have a visual and you have the line in here, and then you also have a metric in your header and metrics in the subtitle, if you apply a slicer, the slicer will apply to everything within that visual. You can't necessarily go to edit interactions and say don't affect this visual, so that's not something we can do. Therefore we have to use a workaround, which is what I talked about previously, which was using this disconnected table. This has been created in Power Query rather than using DAX to create it. So what I'm just taking out is the date and the end of month. If you use DAX to summarize columns from the date table, I think it kind of creates like a circular relationship and you don't get the correct functionality. I'm not going to go through the exact mechanics in the video because I'm not sure I fully understand the mechanics, but there's plenty of resources out there if you want to go and read about how you use a disconnected table to apply slicers and not affect some visuals. Okay, so I'll get back to what I was doing before. So what we want to do is create that header. So I'm going to create a few more measures here. You'll see as I do it. So we want the net revenue for the reporting month. Okay, so I'll just call it RM. So I want a variable for the month that I'm selecting in the slicer. So it's going to be called selected value, and it's going to be end of month. So I can go the end of month, that's from my main date table, but the disconnected table is date XA end of month. And then what I want to do is return. So I want to calculate what I want to calculate. I want to calculate the total revenue, and then just apply a filter and then I want to filter just the date table. So the main date table, not the disconnected table. In the month is equal to the variable, that's the select month. Okay. You'll see in a minute what this looks like. So what I can do is just drop in a slicer here, and for the disconnected table, I'm going to drop in the end of month, and just have this as a vertical list. It's easiest, and what I'm just going to do is say, give me the last few months, so May, April, not even May, yeah, so that'll do for that. Now we have, for the reporting month, we have created that. So if we go to the title, and we look to see if we can add in our, it won't let us add a number or a measure, which doesn't sound right, but what you have to do is you have to convert this value, sorry, not that value, this value into a text, into text format, to enable you to include it as a title. So we have another measure. So when I'm creating a title and a subtitle, what I like to do is add title as part of the measure name, so that when you come to search for it, it's easier to find. So title, net rev reporting month is equal to, and then we just need to simply format this as, we want it to be a dollar figure. Yes, so we do $, this will give us just the figure number. If we wanted to have it as in thousands of dollars or something like that, or millions of dollars, we need to format it slightly different, but I'm just going to leave it as the full number. So we come back here, sorry, see, when I say I put in title, that means these things are easy to find. Oh, did I select something? All right, so we have April, so we get April's. We got May's, we get May's, we get February's, January's. So that's kind of working, but you probably want to do a little bit of formatting on it. So I select that. Maybe I want to choose this kind of color. What size do I want to go to? What did I use? 28 or something like that. I think it was 28. Yeah. Did I use bold? Yeah, maybe bold as well. All right, so bold 20th. So that gives me my title, which is our net revenue. I'll come back in a minute and fix the padding and things like that. So our next step is, after this, is to create the subtitle information. Okay, so we're going to create 3 additional values or measures. One's month over month, one's how we're performing against target, and then one is just the reporting year. All right, so first of all, we're going to do the month over month. So our reporting month revenue, month over month change. So we're going to use, again, because we're using the disconnected table, we have to apply that sort of selected month. So selected value in the month. So bar last month. Close my brackets. Equals. So this is a little bit of a funny workaround on this. So because what I want is the previous month. Go back into the month. You don't need to worry too much about these calculations. And then for our reporting month, we want the reporting month value, which is our calculation. So our total, and then we apply that filter. End of the month equals selected month, and then bar previous month, so P month, and it's pretty much the same, except we want last month. Okay, and then I want var result to equal divide our month minus P month, so the reporting month minus the previous month divided by the previous month. So that is our month over month change. So if I was to drop in a card here, and I reformat that as percentage. That percentage value there, so that calculation is working. So you want the variance of the reporting month from the target, so variance reporting month equals, oops, so you want our net rev reporting month minus our target, and then the last one that we want is what's our revenue for the reporting year. We don't really need this here, but we'll add it in just because I had it in the challenge. So this is calculate total order net rev month completed As I said, you don't need to worry too much about this, but this is just for my reporting year. So my reporting year is just complete months. So it's January, February, March, and April. And that's the completed months within 2015. So what I'm basically saying is I want the total order net revenue. And then in my date table, in my calendar, I have something that says the month has been completed. So it'll say true. So January, February, March, and April have been completed, and the year completed equals false. So 2015 has not been completed yet, so it's false. So basically what this is saying is, give me the total order net revenue for the months completed inside 2015. So that's just basically what that logic statement is playing. So this is just a workaround that I use in my date tables to give sort of this logic where it's quite easy to calculate these values without using sort of complex time intelligence functions, because time intelligence you can do year to date, but it might bring you up until, you know, the following days into the following month, etc. So this is just something that I like to use. But as I say, you don't need to worry too much about this calculation. All right. So the final bit is then, previously we created that title, and we had to put it into text. So we have to do something similar for our subtitle. And because we have 3 lines, it gets quite, I don't want to say complex, but there's quite a lot into it. So I'll get started. So like we started with the title, I do subtitle, reporting year rev equals, so that we want to get the month over month trend, which equals our reporting month, and then we want our revenue trend, whether we're above or below our target. So our variance. So we just have those two. Then what we want to do is we have a text line. So var m over m line. So we have a conditional format here. So if our trend m over m is greater than 0, so if our month over month is positive, basically that's what we're saying. We want a month over a month, and we're going to use this little caret. So let's copy this one. I forget what the shortcut is for it. So a month over month and then we have to concatenate that. Convert our format of our reporting month. So you want to change that to I'll just copy this in, it's easier. So we want to convert our month over month change to a percentage, and then if it's positive or negative. So this is just giving us, if it's positive, we want it to be this. If it's negative, then we want it to be that. And we want to convert that to a string. Now, if it's less than 0, so if it's negative, we kind of want the same, but instead of up, we want down. All right. And we can get rid of that comma, and then var rev line. Oh, I'm gonna need it another. Yeah. Var rev line. So this is kind of the same. I might, just in the interest of saving time. So basically our trend. So if our revenue is greater than, if the variance is greater than 0, then our revenue for the reporting month, we report the variance, and we report it in thousands of dollars, and it's either above target rev if it's above, or if it's not, then it's below target rev. Okay. What else do we have? And then we have var rev ry. Let me just again copy this in. I know this seems like a lot of work, but once you do it once or twice, it kind of pays off in terms of what it can bring to you. So we have the month over month, we have the variance, and then the reporting year. So now we just want to return all of this together. So what we do is we can bring in MOM line, and I mentioned earlier we have this unichar or unichar 10, which gives you, it lets you go on to the next line down below. Rev line, and then add unichar again, and rev ry. Okay, so that's the biggest part of it over. One last one is color formatting. Okay, so we want a color format rev trend. So the problem, well, kind of the problem is that you can only apply a color trend to the subtitle as a whole. So if you've got 3 or 4 metrics in there, that's where it gets a bit tricky, because if some metrics are positive and other are negative, then sometimes it can be a bit funny. So it might be a good idea not to overload too many metrics. 1 or 2 is fine. This instance, I'm going to apply our color coding on how we're varying from the target. So oops. So our variance, so again, we're just doing this old switcheroo, switch true. So if var, so if it's greater than 0, and we're applying this green, is it again 145 A5A. If it's equal to 0, we'll just apply maybe a grayish golden 9s. If it's less than 0, then we want that red color. So it's C73D40. And then return result. Did I forget something? Yep. I always forget to close the parenthesis on my switch. All right. That's that. Okay. So what we want to do is go in, turn on our subtitle. We say, no, we don't want that. We want something much better. So you see now we have our month over month. I can go, boom, it's dynamic. It's giving me what I want to know. Great. So this is all working. We see this value 18.0, 5.5. 5.5, it's all making sense, so it's working. So one other thing that we want to do there is apply the color coding. So we want to apply it on the trend. So it's giving us that sort of greenish color, so it's not really standing out too much if we're doing okay. But yes, so if our revenue is slightly below our target, then this gets highlighted as red. So that's working for us. So what you might want to do in here is, if you want to tidy it up by adding in some sort of padding, just to make it look a bit nicer, and give that sort of effect to it, and just to make it look like what we had in the KPI dashboard that I created. A bit of a border. We can apply some shadow. Again, we can keep it sort of not too sort of overbearing, so something like that. The problem with this is because you use your title and your subtitle, there isn't really a possibility to add in a title. So a workaround that I used for this was I created just a box up here, so you can just do something like this. Let's see, I want to go white and apply a background. And maybe go with some, what did we have? We had 15 padding. And maybe want to go something slightly bigger. Too big. And then if you just want to group those together, that's it. So you can make a few more tweaks in there if you really want to, but as I say, that is your dynamic KPI created, where you have dynamic title, you got your metrics, you got your line chart. You can apply your slicer without affecting your line chart, but it updates all of your metrics. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you're going to create this and you want to add your own customization, I'd really like to see what you come up with. So you might see me on LinkedIn or on YouTube or anywhere like that. So feel free to drop me a line or tag me in anything that you're posting. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you like this type of video walkthrough, are there any other types of visuals that you want to see being made? Anything I've made in the past that you think you might want to see? And as always, if you like this video, I really appreciate a subscribe and a like. It'll help me have a bit more sort of a bit more encouragement to make a few more videos. Okay, so thanks for your time. I'll see you on the next challenge.